and welcome to the History Makers Leadership Podcast. My name is Daniel, and I'm incredibly excited today to be joined by Drew. Drew, great to have you here, man.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, brother. I'm excited today, Drew, because I want us to talk about transition. ILI's in the midst of some transition, and I know you were not too long ago in the midst of some transition, so kind of in the middle of it, kind of a couple years behind. Will you just tell us a little bit about your current leadership context, and then I want us to unpack what we've learned and what we're seeing in the midst of transition.
Sure. So right now I am the lead pastor at Chapel Hill Church in Bremen, Georgia, and I've been the lead pastor for about 3 years. Prior to that, I was youth, kids, family pastor, and literally it's been a journey all the way through from the beginning of 7 years ago, coming to Georgia and getting to where I'm at. We've experienced quite a bit of transition.
Man, that's incredible. You know, as I look at, you know, obviously I'm an American and I attend American church. Even the church in America, I feel like, has been in the midst of transition as COVID has, you know, kind of come and gone, and we've seen those attendance cycles change and transition. Are you seeing some of that as well? I mean,
Yes, very much. And when COVID hit, we thought, much like the world, everything's going to shut down. Like, we're not going to have church. We're not going to have this anymore. But in our context, in Bremen, small town church, we kind of had an opposite happen. We had more people saying we want to be here.
Wow.
And so navigating that, and then now just that really set the trajectory for where we're going. And people have just wanted to be there and belong and be a part of something that has continued even through a difficult time.
That's incredible. So if I'm getting our timeline right here, that would have been about a year and a half before you took leadership.
Yes.
Right. In the organization.
Yes.
So you're 3 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about some of the things that you felt in the moment. You were like, hey man, this is the most important thing. But you look back and you go, you know, I thought that was the most important thing in the midst of transition, but that maybe wasn't as big a deal. Like, what are some of those things that you can think through,
So
you know?
transitioning specifically from into the lead pastor position.
Yeah. Transitioning into that lead pastor position in the midst of your church growing, right?
Yes.
And the transition that was too.
I think one of the biggest things that I put a lot of attention on and emphasis on, that I thought, hey, this is going to be the most important, was trying to, like, how do I help create a space for people?
Mm-hmm.
And we really already had it. It was a pace, like I put so much into, we want people to feel comfortable. We want people to feel warm and welcomed. And those things are important. They have their place.
Sure.
But I was overly emphasizing those things. And in all reality, if I had to look back, it was already happening. It was naturally happening. And I didn't need to add anything to it. I just needed to just encourage it to continue.
Man, that's such a good word, because I'm you know, we're in the midst of transition now, and as an organization that's been around for 25 years, moving from founding generation into next generation leadership, and man, God's been so gracious. But there's a good word in there that the heart of the people was already for hospitality.
Yes.
They already had a heart for that. You didn't have to go beating that drum. Actually, it sounds like you just had to kind of unleash them to do it.
Yep, just allow them to step into that. I think that was another thing for me. Speaking to this was, all right, I'm stepping into lead pastor position. I've got to kind of oversee everything, and I've got to oversee our volunteers. I've got to oversee this side of ministry, and they were already doing it. I had to really just relinquish control and allow people to flourish in what they were already doing.
Man, that's such a good word. Because there's this belief or this sense in you know, I think the heart of a leader that's going through that transition, to think or to feel like, man, I got to know it all.
Yeah.
Right. I got to have my finger on every pulse. I got to, you know, maybe not control, but at least have answers for, right, all of the above. Even before we turn on the cameras, we asked a question of you, and you're like, you know, I don't know that one, and that's okay. I've got, like, the team knows that, right, and that's why the team is there, right? Yeah. Leadership is about mobilizing people toward a shared vision and objective, right? And it sounds like you've been able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more and more as I continue to grow and continue to move forward in leadership, it's understanding that it isn't about one person. It's never. let me rephrase that. The only person it's about is Jesus.
Right.
But outside of that, it's a team thing.
Yeah.
And every person has strengths and weaknesses. And if me as the leader feeling like, well, I've got to be strong in all areas for this thing to succeed, well, the reality is that's just not possible.
What do you think? What do you think's in the heart of us that causes us to feel that way? Is it just pride?
Yeah, I think mainly pride, and maybe partnered with that is this: I don't want to fail. This fear of failure. And as the leader, if I show an area of weakness, if I show an area where maybe I don't know the answer, well, then what I'm actually showing is failure, and it's just not true.
So for the third chair that's sitting here with us, they're in the midst of transition, or they're trying to figure out how to lead in the midst of transition. It sounds like I need to kind of be on the lookout for where the enemy is enticing me to pride or fear, right? Because we know the scripture says, I didn't give you a spirit of fear, right? But a sound judge.
Yeah.
That's right. Sound mind in that process. So how did you kind of develop that? What were some of maybe the guardrails or some of the people or phrases or things that helped you to guard against that?
Yeah, really the biggest thing for me was surrounding myself with people who've gone before me. Being able to call up previous pastors that I served under, that I was just went to church and just say, hey, what do you think about this? Asking people like parents. No one wants to ask their parents anything, right? But especially when you become an adult, but just asking questions and not being afraid to ask. I relied heavily on previous employment, people who were maybe not even in the faith, but just someone that I served and worked under. I worked at a restaurant for 5 years and ran a catering company. And I remember calling the owner of the company and just saying, hey, in managing people,
right,
give me some help. And to this day, I'm like, that really applies to church leadership just as much as it does to a restaurant.
Sure. Yeah. There's some of that common grace that we can lean on in these relationships, as we've seen people that have led well. I love looking to some of the business leaders in churches or just in the body of Christ in general, not because they have every answer, but because they're struggling with or wrestling with some of those same transition questions that have taken place. One of the things that comes to my mind, in addition to that community, is that abiding, that abiding sense of intimacy with God, and the knowledge that I'm a leader because people invested in me, right? People multiplied their leadership into me to allow me the knowledge, experience, and such that got me to this position. So going back to some of those mentors, going back to some of those coaches, and saying, hey, how did you navigate this? How did you figure that out? How did you overcome this obstacle? That's a real good, just a real good kind of anchoring point to navigate some of those transitions. Now, not all transitions happen with smoothness. Sometimes there are trials along the way. And so, did you encounter any trials or difficulties, and maybe what were some of the ways that God helped you to navigate those things?
Sure. So, really, if you back it up to 3 years ago, actually about 4 years ago, we went through a transition in our church where the lead pastor stepped down for multiple reasons. Stepped down, and during that transition, our church as a whole went through a time of, are we even going to exist anymore as a church? Are we going to close the doors? Are we going to continue? Our organization is a family of churches, so there's a lot of people involved in making that decision. And I remember sitting in a room with my senior leader and him looking at me and saying, what do you feel like God wants to do? And I said, well, I know that my wife and I are called to be in Bremen, Georgia for a reason. And that moment right there was so pivotal. We didn't know what that was going to be. We didn't know what it was going to look like, but we knew that we were going to say yes to God. So in this transition of pastor leaves, really church split. Half decided to go where he was going to go, and half were saying, are we sticking around going to have a church, or what are we doing? We went to the only thing that we knew how to do, and we started to pray. We just said, hey, we're going to gather in this building, and we're going to pray, and we're going to seek the face of God, and just, what do you want this to be? What is next, God? And that's what we did for months and months and months. And we went all the way to a church of 100 people to now fast forward, we're a church of 600 people.
Wow.
All from a moment
Wow.
where someone said, hey, it's time for me to leave. There was some disagreement. There was some heartache. There was some negative things. We might close the doors, to now God just saying, hey, you stayed faithful as a people, not as Drew. You're the leader.
Right.
You did this. No, as people, you stayed faithful to me and to what I have for this community, and his hand's on it and he's blessing it.
Amen. It sounds like that trial provided the opportunity for the vision to be clarified and recommitted.
Yes. That's a great way to say it.
Right? Like, because here's what I just heard. Hey, I'm called to Bremen. That's where why? Because there's a need for the gospel in that community.
Right.
Right. And
Absolutely.
every leader has that in some respect of their life, right? God has called them to this thing, whether it's in the marketplace, in pharmaceuticals, or whether it's in church planting, or whether it's in global missions or some nonprofit. There is a place that God has called us because there's a need for kingdom impact to take place and transform.
Absolutely.
And so if I'm leading in the midst of this transition and I see that trial, that's a moment to clarify the vision.
Yeah.
Recast it.
Yeah.
And mobilize people around it.
Right.
And I think what you're describing is that powerful purpose that God has behind a leader in the midst of those things.
Right.
Right. Leadership matters, right? Like, I mean, God has always chosen to work through people to accomplish his work and will, which is just mind blowing of its own. But as I think about it, you sat there and we're just clear. Hey, this is what God, like, this is the vision God's given.
Right.
Bremen, Georgia, alive with the gospel.
Right.
We want to see these people active in their walk, reaching their neighbors, and this community being one that impacts the nations.
Right.
Right. Well, brother, somebody has to stand up and say, that's what we're doing.
Right. Absolutely.
And so that's going to galvanize a people in some pretty powerful ways.
Yeah, it is. And we tie everything. Our vision at Chapel Hill is what we say is we exist to lead people to a growing relationship with Jesus Christ.
Amen.
And keeping that, you said it a couple times, but keeping that vision in front of people, this is why we're doing this. We're not doing this to form a boys and girls club to just meet. And we're doing this for a purpose. And casting that vision, reminding people of why, and being a leader who is vocal about it and doesn't just say it, but lives it and does it. That's huge. It's one thing to say it and to say, come on, get on board, church.
Yeah.
It's another thing to say it and do it and participate in it. And I think that helps carry the vision forward. When they see the leader doing it, man, I'm doing what they're doing.
No, I think that's, man, how powerful and how convicting, right? Because as I'm sitting here thinking, as a leader in the midst of transition, if I want people to get it, I got to do it.
Yeah.
Right. They're gonna do what I'm doing. So if I'm a pastor that's like, man, my church isn't evangelizing. Well, when's the last time I did?
Right.
Right. Man, my church isn't making disciples. Well, when's the last time I did?
Right.
Obviously at ILI, we believe deeply in the power of leadership and the role and importance that developing leaders plays for advancing the kingdom, not just in the States, but around the world. And so, well, how am I doing that? How am I setting that example? Because I think you're right. I think as those, again, transition is an opportunity for change. And so people are like, what's changing? There's an importance to say, hey, these are the unchanged things.
Right.
Right. This is the vision. And this is how you see me living that out in my daily life. That's powerful. When you walked through that process, what did that look like? You stepped into a senior leadership role, senior pastor, but you had a team. What was it like trying to, and again, in addition to leading the church and the volunteers and all those people, but you got a team, a staff around you. How has it looked? How was it different between the volunteers and the church versus the team that was around you?
Sure.
What did you have to do that was maybe a little different in those transitions?
Yeah, I think trust for both obviously is huge, but the way that I was shown and what was modeled for me when it came to a staff or a team, if you will, was like, we're in this together. It's a we, not me, right? And so this trust has to go deeper. Yeah. And I'm a very relational person anyway. I'm a very extroverted person. So I am like, you're either going to love me or you're going to hate me. And if you hate me, I'm going to get you to love me.
Sure.
Type of person. But I just pulled our staff in. the benefit was I had already been working there for 3 years. So I pulled in our little staff at that time, 2 other people, one part-time and one intern at that time.
Okay.
Pulled them in and just said, hey, here's what we're doing. And I need you to know that I'm with you and I'm for you. And I want to know that you're with and for me. And if we've got that in common and Jesus is at the center, we're going to blow the doors off this thing. And that's where it started. And I think that level of trust, that level of knowing that I'm looking out for them and what God has for them, and it isn't about let's promote Drew. It's about let's promote Jesus.
Right.
And where God has called you, the gifts he's given you, I want to lift those up. I want to elevate those and allow God to use you. When people feel that, man, they'll go with you anywhere. When they know you're for them, they'll follow you anywhere.
So it sounds like that deeper in this process is trust. Deeper in this process is established integrity.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm going to lead in the midst of transition, there has to be that established integrity. Little bit of a shift here. I'm curious. So I've thought through leading change a lot. And as I think through the Book of Acts, right, there's this pivotal moment where the apostles are sitting around and going, "Hey, well, Judas is gone. We gotta get somebody else to fill those shoes."
Yeah.
Right. And Acts says, they all had one mind, right? They were all together. And so what did they do? Well, they picked a couple of people and then they just threw some dice down, right? They cast lots and the lot fell to who it fell to. And then they just walked that way. They just went in that way. As you led through change, were there some moments where you acknowledge, you realize, hey, you know what, God, everyone here is seeking to be faithful. So we're going to just trust you in the production of the results. Does that make sense? Like, were there some moments where you kind of had to wrestle with that?
Yeah, there definitely were. I think moments where I had to wrestle more with, initially, God, are you sure? Are you sure that, I know that you called me here, but are you sure I'm the one for this?
Sure.
I definitely wrestled with that for a while and those insecurities, and was able to just lean on, what I knew. And what I knew was the door was open.
There you go.
He confirmed the call of where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to step into the door and I'm just going to allow him to do what he can do, what I can't, but only he can do. I hope that answers.
Yeah. No, look, there's again, much closer in that process. Yeah, there's absolutely those thoughts and those feelings, right? Where God is so gracious to send the right people in my life to come alongside and say, hey, here's clear evidence of God's calling and anointing. Don't miss that. Don't forget that. Hey, this is going well. This is because the enemy's constantly sitting there going, hey man, you ain't got a clue what you're doing. or you're going to
Sunday,
dude, I'm telling you. And so you feel that sense of, God, there is no way.
Yeah.
You feel like David in Saul's armor, right? Looking at it going, man, this thing doesn't fit me at all.
It's not who I'm supposed to be.
But that is the armor I'm supposed to be using.
Yeah.
Right? There's a different set that he's given to us as followers. And so there's that weight and that realization that, I just got to pick up the 5 smooth stones.
Yeah.
And I got to start slinging it around.
Yeah.
And trust him for that result. So, in your context, what have, I've heard this phrase, put your hand to the right inputs and trust God for the right outputs. Right. And so how have you navigated identifying those right inputs in the midst of transition? Right. Obviously you're going to have preaching on Sunday and there's some elements there that's going to require some attention, but going from 100 people to 600 people in 3 years, let's be honest, but that's obviously the Lord's blessing, but it requires you to have some of those support structures in place to make that kind of exponential growth possible.
For sure. I think the team, having a team who understands that we're not, and I alluded to this earlier, we're not managing people. We're loving people. And there's a huge difference. We feel sometimes as leaders like I've got to manage this. And there is some truth to it, but you're not managing people. You're loving people. Yeah. And what we are doing as a church, what we feel like we're doing and accomplishing is, hey, when people come, they're coming in from all walks of life. We don't know what they're dealing with. We don't know what they're walking in with or what they're going to walk out with. What we hope they walk out with is an understanding of God's love for them and knowing that there's this free gift that he died for you and accept it. So what I'm getting at is this understanding that we're not managing it. We're just loving them for right where they're at, for who they are. We're going to love them. And it takes all of us in that mindset, not just one or two or three. We've all got to be there.
Yeah.
That a volunteer who's serving or a person who comes in for the first time, and we're going to love them the exact same way, and we're going to walk with them no matter what, where they're at on the journey.
You know, so I pastor at a house church, and one of the things we often talk about is love like surgery,
Mm-hmm.
right? What does a surgeon do? They help remove things,
Yeah.
right? But it's actually for your good. Like it's actually like
Yeah.
for your benefit.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as you think through what that love looks like loving people and teaching your team to have a heart of love and a heart of service, right? Like when we talk about servant leadership, we will look at the example of Jesus washing the disciples' feet.
Yeah.
When you look at John, why did he do that? He did that because he loved them, right? That was the heart behind the service. That was the purpose behind.
Yeah.
Was to demonstrate and live out a heart of love to those followers. So, how do you help to, or how do you see even in yourself to instill that heart of love when, well, man, people are complicated. Like it's hard. Sometimes loving people is not straightforward and simple. How have you guys navigated some of that?
Yeah. Man, it really goes back to the Word of God for us. Like we're going to love people with truth. For this is what the Bible says, and we're going to love you that way.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, it doesn't matter where you came from, doesn't matter where what your past looks like. There is a way forward.
There you go.
And I have to look back at what Christ did for me and how I came to Him and the love that was there for me and is still there for me. And how do I do it? It does get difficult because you, in this position, you learn things about people that you're going, oh my goodness, I wish I wouldn't have known that maybe. but you have to understand and you have to look, you try to understand. Let me say it that way. You have to try to understand and try to look at everything in the way that God does. And that's difficult. But that's what we're called to do. We're called to look at people the way that God looks at them.
There you go.
And He sees sin and a way forward. And in today's world, we don't necessarily always see that. We see sin.
Yeah. And
sometimes we don't see a way forward. And that's the challenge, is going, hey, there is a path to get from here to there. And that's definitely challenging as you learn more about people. But we stay rooted and we remember and we go back to, well, God saved me from this. He brought me from here to there. He can do it for them too.
Wow. So as we think through transition, we talked a little bit about watching for pride or fear in our own lives. We've talked a little bit about the importance and the value of team and the connection that provides for that season of growth. We talked a little bit about, just helping people to understand that heart of love, that heart of service. Talked a little bit about seeking help from mentors, from coaches. If you were sitting across the table from a leader that was in the midst of transition, what is one kind of maybe final thought or remark that you would say to them as they're going, man, I'm trying to figure this out and I just don't know, Drew, what to do, man? How do I get to 3 years from now?
Yeah. Man, there's a lot, but I think the one thing that I would say is, man, know who you are in Christ. Know who you are in Christ. He has called you to this place, to this moment, for such a time as this. Know who you are in Christ, and you're not going to have it all figured out. You're not.
That's right.
I don't know anybody who does.
Wait, you don't have it all figured out?
No. And the reality is I think we look and we think that this leader, because they've been doing it 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, they've got it all figured out. They're having the same conversations we're having right now.
That's true.
Hey, how do I get from 1,500 to 3,000? How do I grow? Well, I'm going to remain in who I know that I am. I'm going to stick to that. God, you've called me to be this person. I know who you've called me to be, and I'm going to lean on that heavily, and I'm going to walk it out. It sounds so basic, but man, it's so crucial that I think for all leaders, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, know who God's called you to be and be you. Be who you are. Don't try to be anybody else.
We can't.
Yep.
We can only be who He made us
Yeah.
to be. Man, such a good word, Drew. Thank you so much. If you're a leader out there, I just want to encourage you down that same path. Man, there is such power in abiding in an abundant relationship with Jesus. Recognize who God has called you to be. Be exactly who and how He has gifted and formed you, because the whole body of Christ is stronger when each member is fulfilling the mission and vision that God has given them. As you seek to lead in whatever context you're in, I want to encourage you. The International Leadership Institute is here to walk that journey with you. We want to help you to discover and deploy the 8 core values of the most faithful Christian leaders. If you go to iliteam.org, you can access that information, access some of those resources so that you can be better positioned and equipped to fulfill the vision that God's given you. Drew, thank you so much for spending some time here with us today, brother. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your heart for the people of Bremen and the work that you guys are doing to show the love of Christ to everybody who's there, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's been an honor.
Yes, sir. Thank you.